So today, we're going to talk about some of the nuts and bolts of enabling commerce on any website, something that we're very passionate about. This is important because, as Monica said earlier, we've got hundreds of thousands of stores selling with Shopify right now, but there's millions of websites out there, and many of them are perfect for commerce. Many of them are ready for commerce, and we want to make this easy, simple, and we want Shopify to enable them and be the best way to do so. So a little bit of a background on the two of us on the stage here today. My name's Daniel Patricia. I'm a product manager on the Buy Button. That's Rich Gilbank, technical lead on the Buy Button. We spent our first year and a half at Shopify working on user onboarding, and we found something really interesting, and that was that some of our most successful merchants were obviously those that had built an audience, they'd built a website, they'd got up and running. But what we saw actually looking at their onboarding experience is they actually had a lot of difficulty. So we started to think about how can we help these guys find and add e-commerce, right? An online store can be challenging. There can be quite a lot of costs in there. And so we tried to figure out how can we simplify this so they can get up and selling faster. So we built this thing called the Buy Button. So the Buy Button's really simple. You have your product, you have it in Shopify. You can just add it into any website that you have, any CMS that you have. And it's pretty much a simple product with you can add it to cart, you can check out, and that sort of thing. So it worked on mobile. We focused on that on launch. But it really was quite a simple product. And what we saw is that actually the amount of sales and the volume of sales coming through the platform increased 5x in the first 3 months. And that was great. But what was most interesting is that the people that were using it were real businesses. And what I mean by that is they weren't people that just needed a little bit of commerce. People actually took this and built some beautiful things with it. The reason was just because they couldn't start from scratch didn't mean they couldn't have a great user experience. So we saw businesses like Schmitz here. They built this beautiful site selling these deodorants, organic deodorants, and they just used just that little add to cart button there, and that gave them e-commerce overnight. You see simple little small businesses that actually do a lot of sales, and it works great on mobile. It plugs into their themes, and it instantly kind of works. So what we saw then, over the last 6 months, we've seen a 10x growth. It's continued to grow, and it's continued to surprise us. And what we did is we started adding more and more features. We added a cart, we added collection embeds, and we really gave people all the tools they needed to actually build a store. And we started to see there's actually potential for a real platform here. So we added these product modals that allow you to take all the product information that's locked in Shopify and display it in a really interesting way, allow you to add multiple products to cart. We added the cart that pulls out from the side that you can use on any page. And we really saw that people were building beautiful online stores on Squarespace, on WordPress, or home rolling their own solution. So what are we here to talk about today? You heard a lot of this in the morning. I'm going to hand over to Rich, and he's going to share some of the interesting stuff we've been doing since then.
Thanks, man. So as Daniel mentioned, there are currently thousands of shops on Shopify's online store platform, hundreds of thousands, in fact. But there are millions of websites that are out there that have been unable to leverage the benefits that Shopify can really offer. Largely because they're on a platform already that they've already logged into. But ultimately, we want to be able to reach those millions of websites that are out there that want to add e-commerce, and we need your help to do that. As partners, we've realized that we can't actually cater to these millions of people on our own. We need your help to be able to build the apps and the ecosystem that's going to support all of these different infrastructures. So in order to do that, we needed to start at the foundation. We needed to build off of APIs that provide low-level access to your Shopify products and collections, that provide the ability to build larger, more comprehensive ecosystems. They needed to be flexible because these millions of websites that are out here were built on various platforms by various teams with different purposes, different objectives. And to be able to cater to every one of them, we need to be incredibly flexible. And finally, we need it to be very easy to integrate with. If we're going to be trying to provide e-commerce for these websites, rather than getting them to migrate from what platform they're currently on onto Shopify's online store platform, we need to provide something much simpler, a much easier alternative to them. So today, we're really excited to be introducing the JavaScript by SDK. The JavaScript by SDK provides access to three of the sort of fundamental components of any e-commerce experience. It gives you access to your Shopify products and collections. They're actually retrieved from Shopify, so you can continue to manage them inside of your Shopify admin. It provides access to a cart, so your customers can combine multiple items together and check out with them all together. And finally, the checkout itself, which continues to be hosted on Shopify's secure servers. So what is it? What does it really provide? Well, it allows you to build an e-commerce website, an e-commerce storefront, rather, into any website. It allows you to really customize the UI, and in fact, build the UI from scratch, so that you can really build your e-commerce store around your brand and not the other way around. You've invested a ton of time already in developing your brand and developing the sort of experience that you're going for. Allow that to work for your Shopify business. So as we were thinking about this, we started looking at what it is that Shopify currently provides. We currently provide this sort of best-in-class hosted solution for e-commerce. But to be able to cater to these millions of different websites, we needed to be able to integrate with any existing build process, any environment, and work really anywhere. We use Liquid within our hosted storefront solution, and I mean, many of you have built rich, engaging experiences on Shopify's online store platform using Liquid. But to be able to reach, again, all of these different infrastructures, backends, frameworks, we needed to do something more universal. We needed JavaScript. Finally, for those of you who are familiar with Shopify's existing product for the buy button, you may know that it, under the hood, uses iframes. And while that has afforded us a certain degree of security and assurances that by adding this to your website, it's not going to be affecting your content whatsoever or breaking anything on your site, it doesn't allow the same level of customization that you would like. So what we wanted to do was really open things up and make things incredibly customizable, allow you to build from the ground up. So what does it look like? What can I really do with this thing? First, let me introduce you to a company called Scully. Scully is actually makes a product that is sort of very, very dear to me. They make a motorcycle helmet that's really cool. It's got a rear-facing video camera, so you can actually see what's going on behind you. It's got GPS built in, so you can bring up your directions and everything, all inside of a little heads-up display on your motorcycle helmet. And they were actually the fastest, fully funded Indiegogo campaign ever, raising over $1 million in GMV, raising over $1 million in less than 48 hours. And they were able to do this by building out a marketing site that sort of stood on its own. They built out a marketing site that would allow them to communicate their message to their potential audience. And once the Indiegogo campaign ended, they needed to be able to continue to take those pre-orders and those pre-sales. So they turned to the Shopify buy button. The Shopify buy button allowed them to integrate directly into their site. So instead of having to re-platform onto a different platform entirely, they were able to simply add e-commerce to their existing website. But there were a few problems with it. There were three main problems. One is that their analytics didn't really work. Since it is an iframe-only solution, they were unable to really understand what their users were doing and really follow them through their sort of customer acquisition funnel, because they couldn't really track those events. Second is they weren't able to really integrate directly into their brand. They've already built out this website, but they couldn't leverage the same benefits of being able to just use the existing styles and buttons and things that they already had. And finally, they didn't have access to customize the buy button by providing a different sort of variant selection mechanism. they wanted, instead of what the buy button has, which are 2 drop-downs, essentially, they wanted to build this more rich, engaging experience to kind of showcase their product photography a little bit more. You can see also with the sizing selection, they wanted something that was just a little bit more unique. So they came up with this really cool solution, which is that they actually embedded 10 buy buttons in their web page. That Add to Cart button right down here is actually 10 of those. And then depending on which option you select, it's actually showing and hiding different buy buttons, which is pretty cool. But they shouldn't have to do that. We wanted to build something that would be a little more fluid and integrated into their system. So we've been working with them on integrating in the JavaScript by SDK. And you can see here, this looks almost exactly identical. And that was by design. What we had with the buy button was almost exactly what they wanted, but a few additional changes. You notice the Add to Cart button and the Checkout button are more integrated with their brand. It uses their same typography, it uses their padding, it uses some of those things that were not previously customizable with the buy button. There's also, since there are no iframes involved in this directly, this is actually being rendered directly into the page itself. They can continue to use the same variant selection mechanism they'd already built, but that's actually selecting the variant. And finally, since there are no iframes involved, they could actually track their click-through. They could actually understand where the users were coming from, who was converting, and what tactics were really effective. Now, that's just kind of a quick example of a simple sort of product embed, really, with a cart, and just kind of showcasing some of the easy, small customizations on top of the buy button that it allows. But JS by SDK allows a whole new breed of e-commerce solutions anywhere. As an example of that, you can think of sort of a unique lookbook experience, where you can build a purely self-contained package, wrap it up in a zip file, and you can just navigate through it, retrieves your products from your Shopify admin, and, for example, add an entire outfit or an entire collection to your cart at once, and have it appear as one thing. You can sort of imagine some of the implications of this, of being able to build sort of a customization experience or a builder interface of some kind. So it empowers a lot of really unique experiences. OK, now some of you are probably here saying, all right, this is a Fed talk after all. Let's see some code. Got you covered. So we're going to build a quick example here. We're going to build a simple product embed with an image, a title, and the button to actually go through to checkout with it. So we've already built out a little bit of infrastructure to begin with here. We've got a build system and things in place. So we're just going to go ahead and Npm install some things. And there are examples of how to do this online as well. And jump directly into our index HTML file here. Now you can see there's a couple of things worth pointing out here. The build.js file at the very bottom, that contains currently the JavaScript by SDK, as well as the code that we've actually written ourselves. So that's all currently just getting squashed into there with our build system. And then we've also added some styles already. So first thing we need is a container to put our buy button into. So we're just going to creatively name this the buy button container and jump into our source file so we can actually start writing this. Now here we're going to require it in. We're using node modules. We're actually using CommonJS and Browserify here to build all this up. So we're just going to require in the by SDK, but there are several different ways of importing it into your project. You can use a CDN link that will be available, so it'll be just like working with jQuery or something like that. You can use CommonJS, you can use AMD. These are all available for you. From there, we're going to take that and build a shop client. Now, this is essentially going to be a proxy to your My Shopify shop. This is what actually connects up the products and the collections and everything to the SDK itself. And to do that, we need 3 things. We need an API key, an application ID, and your My Shopify domain. The My Shopify domain is just the first part of your domain name, the blank.myshopify.com. From there, we're going to call client.fetchProduct. There we go. We're going to call client.fetchProduct and give it the ID of the product that we want to retrieve. Like I said, this is just a simple example of with one product. So we're just going to retrieve that one product. And you notice that it calls, that it returns a promise here. We're just listening for this .then that contains the product itself. And now this is a product model that is composed of the API response and a few other things as well. And we're going to take that and build up an HTML string. We're going to add our image, add our product title, add our checkout link, and all of this into this HTML string that we can then insert into the DOM to make into our buy button. Now you'll notice a couple of other things here. We're writing in ES6 or ES 2015. That's by no means a requirement. You can use this with ES5 as well. Like I mentioned, the build process we're using here just happens to have Babel built into it. And then once we take that, once we have that HTML string completed, we're just going to inject it into our buy button container. Now what this looks like is about what you expected probably. Image, title, and a link to checkout. And when we click through from there, it takes us directly to the Shopify Checkout we've all come to know and love, where the customer can actually enter their billing information and their shipping information and everything directly and process their credit card transaction. Now, that was a simple example of just one product. That's just fetching one product and displaying it. But working with collections, working with carts, these are just as easy to do. Collections, if you worked with JavaScript arrays before, easy enough to iterate over, essentially the same thing. Carts, additionally, we provide the persistence of it and give you just a token to hold on to for yourself so that you can persist that however you want through local storage, through your Shopify, or sorry, through your database, whatever you feel like. Now, there's a few things to point out about working with the SDK itself. The first of all is that we are basically agnostic to the particular tooling and frameworks that you are bringing to it. If you want to write your code in Ember or in Angular or React, that's entirely possible. And in fact, we're actually working on some wrappers that will make that even easier. If you want to work with Grunt or with Gulp or with NPM scripts or whatever build system that you want to use, Browserify, Webpack, that also works. If you want to build isomorphic or universal JavaScript applications, you can do that because you can render it entirely within Node. So you can get your views rendering that much faster, get your SEO performance up, and get that extra little bit of Google juice. The interface, as I mentioned, is written entirely in promises. For products, for carts, it's all in promises. So that means you can avoid some of that callback hell of working with callbacks and some of those standard sort of JavaScript asynchronous behaviors. Now, while the code is written in ES6, it's actually compiled to ES5. So the promises, for example, are all polyfilled for you. You can just kind of pick it up and run with it. And this is going to be compatible down to IE9 as well. And finally, it is entirely open source, as of this morning. It is now on GitHub, it's on NPM, and you can go and take a look at it, check out the package, and contribute back to it. Because ultimately, we want to be able to empower all of you to build new experiences, and we're really excited to see what those experiences are going to be. So we want you to go forth and build things with it, and come back and say, this worked, this didn't, and contribute back to it so that we can make it an even better product to continue to help you even more. Dan. Hand it back to Dan.
So, as Rich mentioned, it's very important to us. The reason we're opening this up is because we want you to help build this for us. And with the audience we have here, you have clients, you have merchants that will be using it. So I wanted to talk through a bit of the people we thought were really underserved. And what the JavaScript by SDK can really, who you can help with the JavaScript SDK. So the first one would be clients that need a redesign. So field notes here, they were working on a new website redesign, and they needed to add, which had a big e-commerce component. And they knew they needed to add it, but instead of waiting a year or year and a half until that site was done, they just added the buy button, it fit into their site, it mixed in with their branding. So if you have a client that you know needs to be selling, but they're waiting on a full site redesign, you can be their superhero and help them start selling sooner. Second client, as Rich introduced, Scully. So they were wildly successful. They had this beautiful site. They were growing very fast. And they wanted to kind of catch lightning in a bottle after their Indiegogo. And they wanted to start collecting pre-orders and that sort of thing. So they really had this beautiful site that they'd built off their own stack. And they could add e-commerce. So again, if you have a client that, many things, great things can happen where they need e-commerce really soon, the Buy Button SDK can be a very simple way of getting them up, getting them selling. And then the third customer is working within their CMS. So something we really acknowledge is we think e-commerce should be everywhere, and we think it should work in any environment, irrespective of what your CMS is. So we saw this interesting use case, the American Kennel Society. So they got this beautiful site that teaches you about all the different breeds of dogs in America. It's really beautiful. Not to say you couldn't build this in Shopify, but maybe you wouldn't. It's primarily an encyclopedia of dogs. I don't think that's our first vision of what we want Shopify to be, but good on you. So what they did is into all their posts, they use this component into their blog posts where they can actually sell products. So if you have a client that has a lot of rich content, that has a CMS that has many other purposes, you can really use Shopify in the right, in the size and the shape of e-commerce that you need. So again, 3 people who you might have in your, on your client list or on your lead list, or someone that you're looking to get started with, that you can start get on board with the Buy Button SDK today. People that are starting a redesign, people that are integrating into a fast-growing site, and thirdly, when you need to integrate it into an existing CMS. So again, we've mentioned it a couple times, but it is live today. You can go to shopify.com/jsbuy to take a peek. And Rich and I are here today and tomorrow. We're doing office hours tomorrow. And if you'd like to reach us anytime, you can email us at buybutton@shopify.com. Thank you.
So I think we've got a few minutes to take some questions, if there are any in the audience. Yes.
I think, hold on,
we got a mic
mic's on the way there.
Hi. For any of the products that you use with an existing CMS that you would use the buy button for, a client would have to create the product in their own CMS and in Shopify, right?
So yeah, the idea is your Shopify would be your record of your product. And if you're building it into, if you're doing, for example, a server-side integration, you could do the associations there. The reason we have the products there in Shopify is then you can reuse those on the Facebook channel, on any other channel, on the POS or that sort of thing. So the product data is pulled in there, but you can be selective on which data lives in there. So for example, your pricing you would want in Shopify, so it's dynamically updated. Your variant information, things like that, you would want centrally managed. So as they change across any channel, they're in there.
So you would create everything for the product in Shopify, but create the page that the button lives on in the whatever other CMS?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Right over here.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just wondering if you're able to sort of, when the purchase happens, can you send through some sort of metadata into the order? As an example, if someone goes to a knowledge base, like you showed earlier, but they came through another channel, like Google Analytics tags or something, and then they buy through that button, and then they go through the Shopify system, can that like Google Analytics tags or some sort of tracking mechanism can it flow into the order?
I believe there are UTM params that can be passed through. I would have to double check that actually. But yeah, if you want to sign up for office hours for tomorrow, we can take a look at that and walk through an example of it together.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it would work with Shopify Checkout in the same way that you'd do your tracking in the thank you page, for example, for conversion tracking.
Hey guys, quick question. You mentioned, I guess, integrating, say, like a tech stack like Angular or Ember.
Yep.
I'm curious as to what the wrapper is you're referring to, I guess, to fetch that data. For instance, the product in this case, or collections, all the things that are set within Shopify.
Yeah.
How that's fetched within.
Yeah, great question. That's so as an example of that, the wrappers that we're kind of talking about would be specifically with something like React, for example. Instead of just giving you the raw SDK itself, we'd be able to provide a series of React components. So those would be actual sort of buy buttons that you could manipulate yourself, but it would be something that you could just integrate directly into your React project and make it much easier to work with, so that it just kind of works with the React way of doing things rather than having to kind of shoehorn a JS lib into something else. We'll kind of provide that for you. We'll be rolling out some of these frameworks over the next few weeks. Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of limits on data, like how much kind of stuff we're going to be able to pull at once from Shopify through to other platforms? How many products, for example? How many products?
So that's going to kind of depend on the query, of course. Ultimately, it's JavaScript. You can make multiple requests all at once. So the standard use case is going to be sort of for fetching some of the products that are inside of a collection, and I believe those are limited to something like 30, but they're paginated as well. So you can make requests for subsequent pages on top of that. Sorry? Same as the current buy button, something like that, yeah. Yep, right up here.
Okay. So when someone buys something from the SDK, do you have a separate channel on your reports in the dashboard? Is it clear that these are sold by button?
Great question. So that is actually something that we are rolling out right now as well, which is that essentially you'd be allowed to create an API key, and as we saw in the introduction here, there were 3 things that went into setting up the SDK itself. One of those was an application ID. And the application ID is going to be what connects it to a new Shopify channel or application. So with working with the buy button, for example, if you enter application ID of 6, then that is the channel that would be associated with the sales.
So an app is a channel?
Yes.
Thanks.
Anybody else? I think one more up here. Just a second. We got the mic here.
Will it be possible to do recurring orders?
To do recurring orders. So the SDK itself is mostly about retrieving things. It doesn't actually handle the orders itself. Essentially, it just provides a sort of an interface to access Shopify Checkout.
So like the existing Shopify Checkout doesn't have recurring, then it wouldn't be possible to use this to do recurring, right?
Right. It basically it provides access to the underlying features that are currently available. Yeah. Anybody else? I think we got one up here.
So each app is a channel, so does it mean we need to use the Checkout API too?
So it doesn't actually use the Checkout API per se. It provides access to the actual hosted web form, so you don't actually have to handle processing payments or anything like that for security reasons as well. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay. I think that's everything. If there's any other questions, feel free to sign up for our office hours tomorrow. We'd be happy to walk through things with you. Right?
Thank you.
Thank you.